I caught my fiancé in bed with my best friend. What are you gonna do? Cry? He mocked. I just smiled and left. This morning, my phone was full of missed calls from both of them. Hello everyone. Thank you for being here with me today. Before I begin my story, I'd love to know which city you're joining us from. Please feel free to share in the comments. Now, let me take you into this story. I still can't believe I'm saying this out loud. My hands are shaking as I think about it, but not from sadness anymore. No, this is pure, ice-cold rage. It all started a few weeks ago, and my phone hasn't stopped buzzing since. My life, the one I had so carefully built, the one that looked so perfect from the outside, was a beautiful, complete lie. Let me give you some background so you understand. My name is Audrey, I'm 34. And until that night, I was engaged to Garrett. We'd been together for 3 years, engaged for 6 months, and I thought my life was perfectly mapped out. He was handsome, charming, the kind of man my mother absolutely adored. We were that couple, the ones whose pictures on social media probably made everyone else a little bit sick with envy. Our wedding was just 4 months away, a beautiful autumn ceremony at a vineyard we'd been planning for what felt like forever. And then there was Paige. My best friend. My maid of honor. We'd known each other for 15 years, since we were awkward 16-year-olds trying to figure out who we were in the high school cafeteria. She was more than a friend, she was the sister I never had. We'd been through everything together, first heartbreaks, college graduations, even the funeral for my father a few years back. She held my hand through the entire service. I trusted her with my life. Was, being the key word in all of that. Looking back, of course, there were signs. Little red flags, tiny little things that made my stomach twist for a second before I pushed the feeling down, telling myself not to be ridiculous. You know how it is. You don't want to see what's right in front of you. You tell yourself you're being crazy, insecure. It's just so much easier to believe the lie. It started subtly, about 4 months ago. Garrett suddenly got this huge health kick. He decided he needed to get in perfect shape for the wedding, which I supported, of course. And who did he hire as his personal trainer? Paige. She'd gotten her certification a couple of years back and was trying to build her client list. At the time, it seemed perfect. My 2 favorite people, working together toward a common goal. I was so proud of them both. What an absolute fool I was. Soon, he started coming home later from his office. Client meetings running long, he'd say, kissing me on the forehead as he dropped his briefcase by the door. Then it was late nights at the gym with Paige. She's really pushing me, babe. I'm gonna look amazing in that tux, he'd grin, flexing his bicep in the mirror, and I'd smile back, telling him how handsome he already was. I didn't question it. Why would I? His phone was always face down on the counter. Always. If we were watching a movie and he got up to get a drink, he'd flip it over. He'd get texts late at night, and I'd see him smile, that little secret smile at the screen from the corner of my eye. If I walked into the room while he was texting, he'd lock it so fast you'd think it was a reflex. Classic, right? A total cliché. But when I'd ask, just gently, who are you texting so late, he'd flip it around on me. The gaslighting was an art form, really. Why are you so controlling, Audrey? Don't you trust me? God, you're getting so insecure lately. Is it the wedding stress? And like an idiot, I'd apologize. I would apologize for feeling suspicious, for my gut telling me something was deeply wrong. I remember one night, about a month before it all blew up. The 3 of us were having dinner at our favorite Italian place. We were laughing, drinking wine, talking about the final details for the wedding. Garrett put his arm around me and said to Paige, "I'm the luckiest man in the world. I'm marrying the most amazing woman, and I've got the best friend anyone could ask for." He looked at me when he said the first part, but then his eyes slid over to Paige when he said the second. They held the gaze for just a second too long. My stomach did that familiar twist. A cold dread washed over me for a heartbeat. But I just took another sip of wine and told myself it was nothing. It was just the wine making me silly. The week it happened, I was supposed to be out of town for a 2-day work conference. It was a boring, corporate event in a stuffy hotel 2 states away. I hated these things, but it was important for a potential promotion I was up for, a significant step up that came with a much higher salary. Garrett had been so supportive, helping me pack my suitcase and telling me to go knock him dead. Paige had even sent me a text that morning, "Good luck. You're gonna kill it. Wish I could be there to cheer you on." The memory of that text, knowing what she was really cheering for, makes me physically ill now. The conference was a drag, just as I expected. Endless PowerPoint presentations and lukewarm coffee in paper cups. I spent the first day counting the hours until I could go back to my quiet hotel room, order an overpriced club sandwich from room service, and call Garrett. We talked that night, a perfectly normal conversation. He said he was just at home, watching a game on TV, missing me like crazy. He sounded tired. I know. He must have been exhausted. But things have a funny way of working out, don't they? The main keynote speaker for the second day had a family emergency and had to cancel at the last minute. The whole conference schedule got moved up, and suddenly, everything was over by noon on the second day instead of wrapping up in the evening. My boss, a decent guy named Mr. Henderson, told us all to just head home early. "Enjoy the extra day off, folks," he said with a wave. I was ecstatic. A whole extra day and a half with Garrett before the weekend. I felt like I'd won the lottery. The drive was about 4 hours, and I spent the whole time buzzing with excitement. I pictured the look on his face when I walked through the door. I put on our favorite playlist, a cheesy mix of 80s rock we'd made together, and sang along at the top of my lungs. The world felt bright and full of possibility. I decided to make it a real surprise. I wouldn't even text him that I was on my way. I imagined us having a romantic, spontaneous evening together. About 30 minutes from home, I pulled off the highway and went to that nice little market we both love, the one with the imported cheeses and fancy crackers. I bought a bottle of his favorite Cabernet, some prosciutto, a wedge of brie, all the things for a perfect, cozy night in. As I was checking out, my phone buzzed. It was a text from him. "Sleep well, my love. Miss you like crazy." I smiled, my heart feeling so full it could burst. I typed back, "Miss you more. Can't wait to be home." I felt a little pang of guilt for the white lie, telling him I'd be home tomorrow, but I knew it would be worth it for the surprise. I pulled onto our quiet, tree-lined street just after 10 p.m. It was dark, peaceful. The lights in our house were on, which was good. He was home. I felt that little flutter of happiness, that comfortable feeling of coming home to the person you love. I parked in the driveway, gathered the grocery bag in my suitcase, and walked to the front door, fumbling for my keys in my purse, my mind already on that bottle of wine. And that's when I saw it. It wasn't in our driveway. It was parked 2 houses down, under the deep shade of an old oak tree, almost completely hidden from view. But there was no mistaking it. A cherry-red Mustang. Paige's car. My first thought wasn't suspicion. It was confusion. What is she doing here so late? My brain, bless its naive little heart, started scrambling for logical explanations. Maybe she and her husband, Wesley, had a fight, and she came over to talk to Garrett. Maybe her car broke down and Garrett went to pick her up. Anything, absolutely anything, but the truth that was screaming at me from the shadows. I stood there for a long moment on my own front porch, the cool night air on my skin, the keys cold in my hand. The grocery bag suddenly felt like it was filled with rocks. I took a deep breath and told myself not to be ridiculous. I put the key in the lock and turned it as quietly as I could. I don't know why I was being so quiet. Maybe some primal instinct was telling me not to announce my arrival, not to interrupt whatever was happening inside. The house was silent. The downstairs was dark, except for the faint glow of the kitchen's under-cabinet lighting. I took off my heels, leaving them by the door, and set the groceries on the granite counter. "Garrett?" I called out softly. No answer. I frowned. His car was in the driveway. He had to be home. Then I heard it. A sound from upstairs. A low murmur, then a soft laugh. It was a woman's laugh. And I knew that laugh better than I knew my own. It was Paige's laugh. My blood went cold. It felt like all the warmth in my body just evaporated, replaced by a terrifying, icy dread. Every excuse my brain had manufactured just shattered into a million pieces. There is a moment when you hover between disbelief and the horrifying certainty of the truth. I was in that moment, standing in my dark kitchen, listening to the sound of my world ending, one laugh at a time. I started moving. I don't remember deciding to. It was like my body was on autopilot, being pulled by an invisible string. I left my suitcase, the wine, the cheese, and walked towards the stairs. My footsteps made no sound on the thick runner. My own heartbeat was a deafening drum in my ears. The closer I got to our bedroom door, which was slightly ajar, the clearer the sounds became. His voice, her voice. Whispering. Another laugh. And then a sound that made my stomach clench so hard I thought I would be sick. The rhythmic creak of our bed. Our bed. The one we picked out together at Pottery Barn. The one where we talked about our future, our kids, our dreams. My hand was shaking as I reached for the doorknob. For a split second, I thought about turning around. Just walking out the door, getting in my car, and driving until I ran out of gas. Pretending I had never come home. But I couldn't. I had to see. I had to know for sure. I pushed the door open. And there they were. Tangled together in our white linen sheets. The room was dimly lit by the bedside lamp, casting long shadows on the walls that made them look like grotesque monsters. They didn't see me at first. It took them a second that stretched into a painful, suffocating eternity. Paige saw me first. Her eyes widened in genuine horror, her mouth opening in a silent "oh." She scrambled to pull the sheet up to her chin, a useless gesture of modesty. Garrett turned, and his face was a mask of pure shock, his mouth hanging open. I just stood there, framed in the doorway, unable to move, unable to breathe. The silence in the room was absolute, heavy, choking me. All I could hear was the blood rushing in my ears, a roaring sound like the ocean. Garrett finally found his voice, and the first words out of his mouth weren't an apology. They were an accusation. "Audrey, what are you? You're not supposed to be home until tomorrow." As if my early arrival was the real crime here. Paige started stammering, her voice trembling, tears already welling in her eyes. "Oh my God, Audrey. I'm so sorry, this isn't, we can explain." But I wasn't looking at her. I was looking at the man I was supposed to marry in 4 months. The man I loved with my whole being. And as I